The Unlikely Innovators with Mike Commito and Steve Gravel. Presented by Cambrian R&D and the Center for Smart Mining.
Mike, the mine of the future is going to be more productive, more efficient, and more safe for everyone. At least so says Dawn Larsen, Digital Solutions Manager at Epiroc Canada. It was great to have Dawn on. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it was enlightening. I think Dawn provided some pretty comprehensive examples of how the digital solutions that Epiroc is coming up with are helping mines become more productive and more efficient, right? And I think it's interesting how, we've talked on this podcast, and I think just in general in our line of work, that like technology adoption has been slower in the mining industry. I think we've seen a significant and tremendous uptick in the last little while, but it's still interesting when you hear these examples about how important this is, from identifying losses to, even improving health and safety, right? If you're able to shave 2 hours off on a mine rescue, like that's critical, like life-saving time, right? But nevertheless, like these are not adopted universally worldwide, right? So again, I think we're fortunate here in Canada that you see a lot of these solutions kind of in some of the examples that Don had illustrated, but I think there's still that adoption gap and that work to do. But again, we commend Don for leading the charge on that, and I think it was great to hear about some of the exciting stuff that Epiroc is doing in that pursuit.
Yeah, and I think this episode will be really a lot for the more technically minded mining folks that we have. So without further ado, we'll go to Dawn Larsen, who's going to tell us about her journey towards digital solutions and the mining industry. All right, we're back, and we're joined by Dawn Larsen. Dawn is the Digital Solutions Manager for Epiroc Canada. Dawn has owned a successful SaaS business for over 14 years before joining Epiroc. She's worked in the mining industry, helping to integrate digital technology and software into mines for more than 10 years. She now leads the Epiroc Canada team, supporting mines across Canada as they build their mines' digital roadmap and integrate digitalization to improve their mines' productivity, utilization, and safety. And now she's a guest on the Unlikely Innovators. Dawn, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So Dawn, what we typically do when we have folks join the pod is at the outset we ask sort of about the career journey of the individual. I know we want to talk about Epiroc because you guys are doing some really great things in digital technologies. But can you talk a bit about your career journey? Did you ever think you were going to end up working in digital solutions and mining when you were sort of deciding on what your career was going to be?
No, I didn't. It was kind of funny. I started out in university with software programming. I hated it, quit, went into business administration, and then realized that everything I wanted to do to make things go faster, better, more efficient involved software. So then I went back and obviously got back into the software and programming industry. But it was a love-hated beginning, and now it's an evil necessity to make things faster, better, and more efficient.
Yeah, and how did you think about mining? How did you make that leap?
Well, when we were doing programming and building solutions and automation solutions, meaning automated processes rather than automating equipment, but when we were doing that, many mining companies across the world had come to us and asked us to build little solutions for them. Then we obviously, because so much mining was in our backyard in Northern Ontario, we started to approach mines with our solutions. And so that's how it started. And so a lot of it came even to building automated solutions or digitalizing processes for mining service companies as well that integrated or worked with the mining industry, and that's how it got started. And the more you get involved with it, the more you produce results, the more you get involved in the industry.
That's great, and I appreciate your story about having to maybe take a step back to really kind of assess, what you're taking, and then ultimately you realize that that's what you needed to do. I had a moment in university where I started off in poli-sci, realized I hated it. And then there was a time when I'm like, I'm just going to drop out. I'm going to go rebuild furnaces with Auburn because I used to do that in the summertime. And I thought that would be a great job for me. And then I kind of realized that, like, no, I think long-term, maybe that's not what I want to do. It was fine in the summer. And then I went back and obviously got back on the straight and narrow. I didn't go back into poli-sci, but I did rediscover that I should stay in school. So, but anyway, it's interesting how sometimes, the journeys lead to where you maybe wanted to go, but you kind of take a detour to get back on that path. Before we do talk about some of the really cool stuff that Epiroc's doing, obviously you've been working in the mining technology space, for over a decade now. So maybe more broadly, just wondering, from your lens, what are some of the key takeaways you've noticed in the industry when it comes to, technology adoption, chiefly when it comes to digital solutions over the last, 14 years or so?
Sure. Well, it has been a slow journey in the mining industry. I've worked with both companies and corporations above ground and below ground. And, above ground corporations and companies were very quick to adopt automation, digitalization, anything for optimizing efficiency, and also data gathering so that they can make better decisions. Now, the mining industry has been somewhat slower, but now more than ever, the conversations that are happening around using software and technology and digitalizing the mine are happening more frequently. Mine managers and management are more informed. They realize it's a necessity for the future to keep them more competitive, keep their costs down, and make them more efficient. And so the conversations have really changed, where before it was trying to convince mines that that's something they needed. And now they are more convinced and coming to us with a different dialogue, like, here's my problems, how can you help me? Before it was, I don't think that'll solve my problem. So we've really evolved, and it's still a slow process because there's a lot of capital or a lot of cost involved with this. But mines are now being proactive thinking and actually thinking about the future 2 to 3 years off, especially with their digital roadmap.
And that's super. I was about to make a sarcastic comment saying, "What do you mean the mines didn't just adopt all the digital solutions as fast as they could when they came out?" But of course, that's not the case in mining or any commodities-based industry. But I digress.
But you know
Um,
what? There was some really early adopters into the digitalization, and they're mostly Canadian mines. So that's exceptional. I'll give a shout out to Hut Bay, Lawler Mine, and Vale. Those are, and Glencore,
mm,
all local mines that have really been early adopters in digitalization and technology.
it's good to be proud of that local effort.
Yep.
So now I want to give you a long runway to talk about the fine things you guys are doing at Epiroc. Most people, when they think about digital solutions and software, and when they think about mining equipment, you know, how are these technologies like being integrated in mobile equipment? You said that like underground mines are good at adopting digital solutions, and I think that the start of that was really stationary stuff, for monitoring and things of that nature. How has that happened now with what you're doing with Epiroc on mobile platforms?
Well, you're right. People really knew Epiroc as this world-class mining equipment, OEM, and that we have cutting edge, automation to really optimize, utilization on equipment. But we've, made some strategic purchases of cutting edge, world-class mining software companies, almost 25 in total, to really provide like a kind of a solution from exploration right to the boardroom, software solutions that can solve problems, the big mine problems for mines. And so with that, we're coming to the industry and saying, hey, whatever problems you have, we have a software that's OEM and technology agnostic that can solve your problems. And so there's, worldwide, wherever we work with mines, typically, it doesn't matter what type of mine it is, they have the same kind of problems. They don't have real-time data, so they can't see what's happening underground. They want to increase their productivity, but there's, in the old ways, there was only adding more people or more equipment, and there wasn't a solution to kind of increase productivity efficiently. They want to increase the utilization. They really, they have equipment and people, and how can they get the most use and value for the time that they have within the mine to, be more profitable, but also about reducing costs and really about increasing safety. Like, we've come to a point where, mines are really putting it in the forefront that they want to revolutionize their safety underground, and looking for ways to do that. And then I guess lastly, one of the main problems is that mine management don't have a really integrative way to know what's happening at the working face, make real-time decisions that could, optimize areas and redistribute, assets or equipment to really win the shift. And so software really opens up a great opportunity for them because it solves all of those problems. There's software to solve anything from productivity to utilization to planning and scheduling to emergency support. And so those are the great things with Epiroc's software solutions. And so if I can get into maybe 4, just to kind of
Sure, would love to.
show you what some of the software, and these are the most used or most asked for worldwide, but especially in Canada and the area I focus in. So again, we're talking about that there's a lot of data underground or on surface, and data is everything from sensors to people to equipment to fixed assets to the alleyways or roadways in the mine to pull-off bays to refuge stations. It's all data. All that is information that needs to be collected, managed, and monitored. And so it's very difficult, or was very difficult, until software technology came around. And obviously connectivity and communication infrastructure is the backbone of enabling digital technology, and mines are really moving quickly to put that into their minds and really get connected. So that's a wonderful thing. But with that now opens up the opportunity for situational awareness, and really that's software solutions that can take the lid off the mine, and then now the mine managers and decision makers and control room personnel can see everything that's going on underground in real time. They can understand where the location of people, equipment, assets are. They can understand what the work schedule is for the person or the equipment. They can understand more how to coordinate and manage the activities that are happening underground on a day-to-day basis to win the shift. And it's very powerful because it's a 3D map that's available, like Google-like map, for the control room or mine personnel. Everyone that, based on user role, has access to it on a mobile phone, a tablet, or in the control room screens, and they can be on-site or off-site. And now real-time decisions can be made, integrative management strategies can be implemented, and it can go, sort of back and forth. It can be, relayed to a mine personnel's tablet or mobile phone underground, right back to the control room. So they have this two-way access, two-way visual, and a true understanding of what's happening in the mine. And that's been like, if I could use the word revolutionary, it's been really powerful in that now it frees up or gives mines freedom to make decisions that they wouldn't know to make until after the shift, because many mines are still doing it, but using paper and pen. And there's many versions of paper that get handed from person to person or at the end of a shift, and then only collated at the end of a shift for mine management to really understand what happened that day, to know how far off or how close they are to the mine plan. And that's critical. Sticking to the mine plan is the most important thing, and it has huge impacts, negative impacts, the more deviation there is to the mine plan. So situational awareness is one of the powerful tools that a lot of mines worldwide have implemented. And the second solution is traffic awareness. And so having this is, wasn't possible before, to have a 3D map, Google-like map, underground in the cab of the mining equipment to then travel through the dark mines. And the power of it is that it has up to 5 to 10 meter accuracy, but it also gives mine personnel up to 600 meter notification of oncoming traffic. Really important when obviously we're prioritizing the flow of mine traffic and the production vehicles. And, there's no more going to back down ramps or no more potential incursions. And traffic flow is optimized now because mine personnel or mine vehicles can understand that, the production vehicles have priority, and they can see proactively that they should, pull off into a pull-off bay so that, the production vehicles are have a safe flow. And there's so much ramifications from that now production vehicles have less wear and tear. It's faster, tight cycle times, increased flexibility. And sometimes in some mines we've seen, like in Blackrock mine, they've actually were able to, once they managed the traffic flow, to increase the amount of equipment they had underground as a result of really, building up their traffic strategy using traffic awareness. And, again, when and if there was an emergency, the tablet that's in the mine vehicle alerts the operator, but also gives them instructions on where the 3 closest refuge stations are. So it gives them a map. And if or when the mine vehicle is out of connectivity, they still have full access to the mine map because it's been, uploaded into the tablet, and they still have the map to get through until they get to the next area of connectivity. So it's really powerful. And again, with this, some mines have used it to gain the historical data so that they could actually review the timestamps and understand where the traffic flows are so that they could build strategies around traffic management. So it's been hugely powerful in terms of optimizing efficiencies for a lot of mines worldwide. So the next solution is short interval control, planning and scheduling. So software that can maximize, work orders, the flow of work orders, take information through, interfacing with other technologies through mid and long-term planning, and use this short-term scheduler to actually push work orders or tasks through to the mine personnel's tablet or the mine Android phones, so that they can, get that information at the working phase. But also the mine personnel at the working phase can now use these tablets or Android phones to update work orders or identify where they're at, if there's delays or if they need some more materials. But there's, in the short interval control software, there's forms and sheets where they can, identify how many meters drilled, bolts used, buckets hauled. And so you have a lot of real-time data. And where you have mine managers at the other end of this information that now is seeing what's happening real time in the shift, they can really proactively make decisions. And if one area of the mine is underperforming where another one is overperforming, they can redistribute assets, or they can, redistribute personnel to really make sure that they win the shift. And more importantly, with this short interval control software, again, it's historical data, it's time-stamped, it's this decision was made at this time. And what it does is now you can see what decisions were made in the shift and how they impacted the long-term plan. And then vice versa, the long-term plan can be readjusted and redeployed through the short interval control shift scheduler. So it's really a two-way information. And for mines that are using this, they're saying that it's increased their productivity up to 18% and decreased their lost time on logistics and utilization by up to 38% in some mines. So the last software I wanted, sorry.
No, sorry. I was just going to jump in, Don, because I think obviously with like the way you're describing this and how, useful these technologies are increasing productivity, there's still obviously, a technology adoption barrier, in any sector, but obviously in mining, we know that as well. In terms of like some of these technologies and platforms, like what are some of the barriers that still exist now? Because obviously listening to you describe these things, like we know how valuable they are, but still like you still have to kind of fight that adoption curve. So in your mind, what are some of the key barriers that Epiroc is kind of up against today, and how do you guys solve them in order to kind of really show the value of these products and platforms and say, this, you need this, and let me help you integrate it so that you can take advantage?
Well, many mines have already, worked through this change management process, and in terms of integrating and trying to, gain adoption with the mine personnel. And, I can use, say, Hut Bay in Canada, Lawler Mine, where, the lead there, Mike Janikowski, said that by, implementing an effective change management strategy and really showing mine personnel how this made their jobs faster, better, and easier, and in one key area where now mine personnel who would take maybe 40 to 50 minutes to, get to their equipment and get, to actually the task of work, when, the software actually made their job easier and they were getting to work faster, they realized that this was a solution that was really going to help them. And so they found adoption in that mine quite quick and fast. And, another one would be Cuiabá mine in Brazil, where the mine manager there said, again, sometimes it was an hour. It's the deepest mine in the world. And it takes almost 40 minutes just to get down underground, never mind get to the equipment. And so mine personnel felt like this was really solving a lot of their problems, in that it was helping them find their equipment quicker through situational awareness. They knew where to, find their equipment. And because of traffic awareness, they were getting to their equipment faster, and, their traffic congestion was less. So, it doesn't take long for mines to show and demonstrate where mine personnel, makes their jobs easier, or at least safer, and makes getting their job done more efficient. So change management, there's some really good, I share on LinkedIn many success stories of where mines have really implemented some good change management. And I guess the last thing would be rewarding adoption of using technology. In the mining industry, we're very focused on, meters drilled, buckets hauled, cycle times. And some mines are adjusting that to say, okay, so the drill was used in the automation mode more than the manual mode. And so rewarding and incentivizing based on using the technology rather than our traditional, recognition and bonuses. So that's been a really positive step forward in trying to move change management and integration into the mines.
Yeah, and I think I wanted to sort of leap off on that. I think well, I think you want to talk about one more area, but in so doing, could you also maybe talk about? I wanted to ask sort of like a broad question to sort of finish our time together,
Sure.
but do talk about that last thing you wanted to mention, and also because you have your finger on the pulse, so to speak, of digital technologies in mining, if you could kindly just think about 5, maybe probably 10-year horizon is a better one, of
Mhm.
where you think digital technology is going. What will the mine in 10 years look like compared to now? So if you want to tackle that.
Sure, sure. So the last solution is sort of emergency support. And again, mines have a big focus on making sure that they've got all the optimal safety measures in place. And so now digital software with the situational awareness, where you can identify in real time where mine personnel and equipment are in the case of an emergency, be it a fire. And, it's very difficult to see in the mine. With this technology, mine personnel wear a companion tag or a cap lamp that blinks, or they have their mine Android phone. Instantly, they can be alerted to an emergency. And based on what kind of companion tag or Android phone they're using, they can either get communication from the control room telling them what the emergency is and what to do, but they can also in real time, respond to the emergency to notify mine personnel that they are alerted of the emergency and that they're making their way to the refuge station. And like I said, if they're in a vehicle, they have a map to the 3 closest refuge station. If they're using the Android phone, they can have a map to the refuge station as well. And so these are really powerful solutions that shave, in some mines have said, 2 hours off of manual rescue time, where you're not calling into the refuge station and calling down off the tag board. You can know in real time where everyone is, and mine rescue can now go right to identifying the mine personnel that need their support and help the fastest, and really focus on that. And some mines have mentioned that with the emergency support drills that they have to do, that they can get into the refuge station in 10 minutes with a whole mine. And like Fosterville mine in Australia really focused on this. And they said when they do their mine rescue drills, they've shaved 40 minutes off of the drills. So that's powerful. 40 minutes is a long time, and 2 hours off a manual rescue is great. So definitely that's a solution that's been adopted worldwide. Now, to answer your question,
Yeah, crystal ball this for us.
yeah, well, no, it's easy to see. It really is, because I see it unfolding already. One of the questions that comes up a lot is, well, this is, digital technology is going to reduce the workforce. And what we're seeing evolving is that it's not, in essence, reducing the workforce. It's actually giving mine personnel a safer, better working environment. So that truck driver is still operating their truck, but they're operating their truck remotely in a much more comfortable environment. So they're using, teleremote, et cetera. And it's happening already worldwide. We see that, there are mine personnel operating equipment that's 1,300 kilometers away from where they're located. And, they're in a, quite nice environment. So the evolution of the job is going to be different, and require that, there's some up leveling on skills, but not dramatic up leveling. It's, they say drill operators and truck operators, they know their skills, and now they're just applying them with technology. But really enjoying, so far the feedback has been enjoying that, this is a much safer environment, and that they're being much more productive. We always want to be adding value to our work, and really seeing that we're upping productivity and efficiency is a bonus that we hear from a lot of people. Now, the other thing is that, they say, well, there could be a reduction in workforce, but really what we're finding is that it's helping the workforce be more skilled at their work, because now, drill plans and the data that analyzes how people are working, we can actually help them be better at their jobs. And case in point, there was a mine that we went in to do some consulting, because we have a mine consulting team at Epiroc that goes around and really solves big mine problems for mines. And they went to this one particular mine where there was 3 scoop operators, but one was always slower on their time and producing less buckets. And the mine had sent this operator out for 3 different training sessions, 3 weeks. That means his scoop was down for 3 weeks. Anyway, when we analyzed the data, we saw that he didn't require these 3 full weeks of training, that the area that he needed just some support was in the actual scooping of the bucket. So they then sent this scoop tram operator for 1 day of training, focused just on how to perfect the scoop. They realized within a few weeks' time that he was keeping up with his colleagues. And over that 9-month period, we analyzed that while this was happening, there was a $1.7 million loss in productivity. But by analyzing the data and helping this operator be more efficient, they kind of plugged the hole on that loss. And he was, keeping up with the colleagues, and obviously feeling better that he was able to do that. And so the only other thing with sort of the mine of the future is that, we are going to be reducing our required to reduce emissions, and really to work to that environmentally friendly environment. And so there's going to be battery operated vehicles and the whatnot, but there's definitely operators and skilled people around those new positions and that new technology that will be required. And we see it already locally in Cambrian College, responding to the BEV industry, and it's exciting. And the same thing with digital technology. All of a sudden, specialized data analysts, technology people, IT professionals are starting to be recruited en masse to the mines, and are playing a very, very important role in helping mines become more efficient and productive.
Well, Dawn, it actually is coming at a very good point. And we thank you for joining us, because mineral demand is only going up with this critical mineral surge, and doing it more productively and efficiently uh, through some of the solutions you guys provide is definitely going to be welcome in the future. So, Dawn Larsen, thanks so much for joining us on the Unlikely Innovators today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it. Steve, but if you're here, who's in Timmins?
Yeah, I know it's a good point, Mike. I did clone myself years ago. This is the younger version of myself that you're seeing here. No, of course we recorded this ahead of time, Mike. But this is being released during the week of the Timmins Mining Show. Last night I just, or sorry, tonight I'll be sleeping at Cedar Meadows Resort. So we'll see how that goes. I'm told the wolves aren't there yet, so they won't be waking me up with their howling.
That would be, yeah. I mean, I guess that's kind of that would be a nice thing to have, I guess, if you really want to experience a northern getaway, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So what Steve is alluding to is that the one of the hotels in Timmins is Cedar Meadows Spa and Resort, which I've stayed at myself, and I know that they have elk and swans, but apparently they have timber wolves, which is news to me.
It's gray wolves.
Gray wolves, sorry.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, that is I'm missing out on this. I do regret this now that I will not get to see a gray wolf, but
maybe I've been eaten already. Who knows? This could be my posthumous delivery.
Oh my gosh. But Timmins is a city with the heart of gold.
Yeah. Did you not live there?
I did. I lived in Timmins for a brief period, grades 7 and 9.
Sears brat,
moved around base to base.
Yeah.
When you think of Timmins, who's the first person that comes to mind?
Oh, Shania Twain?
Yeah, of course it's Shania Twain. I mean, Steve Sullivan would have been an acceptable answer, NHL player.
We're not getting hockey in this episode.
Played for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
We almost made it. We almost made it. I was actually going to say James Cameron, but he's from Kapuskasing.
That's right. That's a good pull. But
Yeah.
no, the last thing I'll say, it's funny how, an unlikely musical journey. When I was a kid, when you're younger and you're rebelling against your parents, like I was living in Timmins, they dragged me to a Shania Twain concert,
Nice.
like at, I think Hollinger Park in Timmins. It was outdoor. And at that time I was listening to punk rock music. So I hated the idea of going to the Shania Twain concert.
Yeah. Way too cool.
But now that older Mike appreciates like the gamut of music and loves Shania Twain, and obviously when the documentary came out last summer, like that's all we were listening to. Now the girls love Shania Twain. Like
Yeah.
I definitely did not appreciate that experience, because I would give anything now to see Shania Twain outdoors. And I tried to do that in Toronto, as you well know, didn't get it done. But anyway,
Yeah.
all that to say, I don't know where this is going, but I guess like Shania Twain is
cool.
amazing. And Timmins is a city with the heart of gold. So if you're at the Canadian Mining Expo, hope you're having a good show. And do please listen to this episode. I know that obviously if you're at the show floor and doing deals and doing business, you might have a commute on the way back. So pop this in, have a listen. Hopefully,
and don't
Steve's
forget
not
that
dead.
if you're single and ready to mingle, don't forget to ask anyone you meet at the conference whose bed their boots have been under. Bye, everyone.
The Unlikely Innovators with Mike Commito and Steve Gravel. Presented by Cambrian R&D and the Center for Smart Mining.